this cold February 8th, 2020 to the Resource Conservation Commission meeting. I call this meeting to order. Every commissioner is present and there's no one in the chamber hall outside of the commissioner. So everyone's here. Let's get started. First agenda item is appointment of Timekeeper. Ron, do you willingly want to take the task?
Yep. Thank you.
Another full agenda tonight. A lot of resolutions on the board too. So I think you'll be challenged again as always. Okay, great. Number 2, public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't think we have any, so we can proceed to item 3, approval of minutes. And we have 2 different meeting minutes to approve here. The November 9th, 2020 minutes were not complete last time, and so those were distributed shortly after the meeting with the updates. And the January 11th minutes were also included in the packet, so we'll first vote on, or I guess have a motion to approve the November 9th, 2020 minutes as included in the packet. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Oh,
I think I heard Diane first. Who wants a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great, thanks, Ron. And I'm forgetting. Do we vote now or do we discuss first?
Discuss
If there's any
first.
comments.
Comments? No comments on the November 9th minutes. All right, let's take it to a vote. All in favor of approving the November 9th meeting minutes as is included in the packet, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. I hear none. Motion approved for the November 9th meeting minutes to be approved. Great. All right, moving on to the January 11th, 2021 minutes. They were included in the packet. Do we have a motion to approve those?
I make that motion.
Diane first again. Shelley second. Thank you. Any discussion or comments to those?
I just have one. It's on page 8. The paragraph that starts with my name. I suggest changing the word projects to programs.
Diane asked about efficiency and renewable energy programs. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I think we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments anybody has?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's bring it to a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes that were included in the packet plus this one comment. Everyone put it to a vote. I'm sorry. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. All right, motion is approved with the minor comment. Thank you, everybody. All right, off to new business already. 4A, Resolution R-9-21, Solid Waste Budget Amendment to allow spending of the CDRR deposit funds. And I know that's been an ongoing topic, but I know this finally got brought to a resolution, so I think we can have a brief discussion on it.
Yeah, you want a motion? I move approval.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the motion.
I second that.
Diane, second. Thank you. And it looks like this is page 14, I believe, of the packet. Pretty self-explanatory, but Claudia, I don't know if you had anything to discuss on it.
Sure. So it's 2 parts. The first part would be voting that these deposits have been forfeited and abandoned. And then the second part is amending the 2021 refuse and recycling budget to allow those funds to be spent in the public information and education account and also the other contractual services account. In the referral page, I talked about using those funds to send a direct mailing to residents with the recycling, the Fitchburg recycling guide. And then the other part was something that we had talked about doing the
Clean sweep?
sorry, thank you, Diane. Having Clean Sweep come and do an event with us. I think that second part is no longer relevant because we were planning to partner with MAMSWAP at this point. And so that's not something that we would have to pay for. We would just partner with them and have that available at our location. But regardless, we can add it to that fund and not use those funds. I guess the other thing that I wanted to mention is the Board of Public Works did not vote for this resolution. I think there was concern about sending a paper copy of the recycling guide to everyone. And I know, I think some people here voiced that concern as well. Would it be valuable? So the conversation was, is there something else that we can spend that money on? Can we think of anything else to spend that money on? I think we are somewhat limited because it has to be spent on trying to get CDRR materials to not go to the landfill to recycle that. So we are pretty limited. I know that we did spend quite a bit of time trying to brainstorm that, but just so you know, that didn't go through the Board of Public Works.
Claudia, do the board members understand that a recycling guide hasn't been mailed out in what, 6 years? And that we're trying to increase the rate of recycling and make that more readily available to residents?
And I don't know if they know the history on that specifically. I think there was just concern that it might not be as valuable since it's already available on the website.
Well, from a personal perspective, I realize it's available on the website, but it's not handy. I mean, I don't keep my computer booted up all the time. And if I have a question on recycling, I open the recycling guide, which mine is really outdated. I don't know. I think that it would have been helpful for the board to have a little more background information on what our thinking was. And the purpose for doing this is to increase the recycling rate rather than, and to get out more information. I mean, we spent some time updating it. It's just unfortunate that they didn't understand that.
Yeah, so this resolution does require a 2/3 vote of the council. So I don't know if Bill Balke is planning to be there to explain this, or alternatively, Claudia, if you might be available at council to explain it. I'm certainly can share whatever you want to share if that's not possible. Alternatively, if someone on this commission wants to come and speak in support of it, it's actually the third item on the agenda after the consent agenda, so it should happen pretty close to the top of the meeting for tomorrow at council tomorrow night, starting at 7:30. So, yeah, if anyone wants to pitch any arguments that I can make to the council, I certainly am happy to do that. But if anyone else wants to be there to encourage this, that might be effective.
Just a comment, Gabriella. This an updated guide has not been mailed out under either Bill's time with the city or Claudia's, and Bill's been with the city in longer. So I don't know. I'm not available tomorrow night, but I just think I really don't like that the Board of Public Works second guessed what we recommended doing without having the background of why we recommended doing that.
Here's a little bit of a why for who's ever presenting tomorrow night. So 18 to 19% of what we put into our recycling carts at Pelletieri right now ends up going to the landfill. So people are not recycling properly. So the recycling guide is a tool to help us recycle better. as a community, we pay money for, part of our recycling fee, and, part of the reason the fee has gone up is because we have such a large number of waste items in our recycling containers. So that's, a pretty big why in my book as to why we need to send it out. And the other reason is that we're, as Claudia mentioned, we're somewhat, limited in what we can do with this. So we're trying to come up with something that we think might be valuable, and nothing has gone out for 6 years. So those are kind of the whys. I don't know how strongly that was laid out to the Board of Public Works, but I feel like, with some of those tidbits of information, that might make a little stronger case tomorrow night.
Claudia, I also have a question. If this resolution passes, regardless of whether the recycling guide part of it, I mean, does that, if the recycling guide part comes out, I mean, is the resolution passage, does that mean we get to use the money for the recycling guide?
Right, exactly.
Then let's say that it passes and we get to publish the recycling guide. What about the rest of the money? Will that be earmarked for recycling, or since it's going into those accounts, does everybody have access to it then?
No, it would still be earmarked. So it would need to be spent for CDRR recycling specifically. And if it doesn't get spent this year, it would just go back into that account and would have to put it back in. Or I guess there are a couple things we could do. We could ask for it to be rolled over into a future year, or there could be a budget amendment to switch it to a different account.
Could we put it in the refuse and recycling fund?
Well, these are refuse and recycling accounts that they're.
Oh, they are.
But
Okay.
There's no general account for refuse and recycling. They're more specific than that.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to identify what the funds are being used for right now? I mean, do we have to say it's going to be used for a recycling guide, or is just the money, or are they just voting that the money just goes to these two different categories?
So technically they're just voting that the money goes into those two different categories, those two different accounts. And then as part of the background information on the referral sheet, I put what we thought we would be spending that money on. So that would be sending out the recycling guide and the clean sweep event. But again, the clean sweep event we're not going to do. So we could spend that money on something else, but it would be in that account, the other contractual services. So if we decided to do something that's not an other contractual service with that money, then we would have to move it to a different account first.
Mm-hmm.
We could use it for battery recycling in that account, correct?
So I don't think battery recycling would necessarily be a CDRR reduction program. I know another thing that the Board of Public Works discussed was maybe using that money on cardboard recycling at the drop-off site, but that's not really a CDRR activity either. So we are limited.
Okay.
I do think that.
How is the has waste? How is that considered a CDRR?
Well, the thought process there was that a lot of material from construction sites would be picked up in that. So if there's paint or deck stain or, there are a lot of hazardous waste associated with doing remodeling projects. So the thought was we'll be getting a lot of that should be related to CDRR related activities, but we would be getting some that might not be related to that, but that was kind of understood.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I do have fresh data on how many cans of paint went out to the Dane County Clean Sweep last year. So it was like 60,000 containers.
Oh, wow.
Went out there last year. So, there's a significant amount of paint going out there, and I imagine that would be probably, one of the bigger takes from that. So I guess that, I see how that correlates now.
Claudia, couldn't the same argument be made for cardboard? Because a lot of construction and remodeling projects entail a lot of cardboard. I mean, when you think about it, refrigerators come in cardboard boxes, and a lot of kitchen things come in cardboard boxes, and sinks come in cardboard boxes, and so you could make the same argument.
I think it's probably just a weaker argument because I'd say, and this is a guess, I don't have data, but I would guess most of the cardboard is just people getting packages delivered to their homes, rather than, I would expect a smaller percentage of that cardboard is actually associated with CDRR activities or remodeling activities. That's certainly something that I could run by finance and our city attorney to see how they feel. But I would expect that to be a smaller percentage of the cardboard.
Well, just some food for thought.
Sure.
And I do think this is a strong chance of passing, but just given the fact that it requires 2/3 vote, there's a little bit of a higher bar to cross. But all these arguments are really helpful. Those numbers, Chris, are very useful. I'll definitely make sure I mention those tomorrow. And if anyone wants to attend, that would be great. If one of you wants to submit written comments instead, as long as there are fewer than 5 written comments for each agenda item, the mayor will read them out. So that's another alternative option, because I don't think we'll get more than 5 comments on this one. So, so just something to consider. And the meeting is going to be considered tomorrow, probably shortly after 7:30 p.m., because it'll be pretty close to the top of the council agenda.
Is there going to have to be any follow-up then? Say this does get approved, are we going to have to pass another referral, or is that just based on approval? Because how's that going to work?
So it depends on the cost. I think probably the way that I would do this is get a printing company to print these out and staple them, and you can get a print shop to print them all out and then put them in envelopes and put the postage on it and mail them out. So I think I would get a quote for that, and depending on the cost, there might need to be a resolution and a pre-approval to get those funds approved.
But this resolution more or less secures the funding for those purposes.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion before I make a vote? All right, I think let's bring it to a vote. All in favor of approving this resolution R-09-21 solid waste budget amendment to allow spending of CDRR deposit funds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, say nay. Everyone says yes, and so I think the resolution is approved. Okay, so then that goes to finance and council tomorrow, and I guess we'll see how that goes. Yeah, like Gabriella said, if anyone wants to show up, I guess I'm also busy, but feel free to do so.
Just as a heads up on time, we spent 20 minutes talking about that one. So we got 5 more to do.
5 more in 40 minutes, so less than 10 apiece. Thanks, Ron. I think we should get going on that. Hopefully this next one shouldn't take too long. But item 4B, resolution R-17-21, approving change orders to solid waste contract. Do we have a motion to approve that one?
I make that motion.
Thanks, Diane.
I'll second.
Thanks, Shelley. And this one looks like it starts on page 17 of our packet.
I do have a comment on page 25.
Okay. Shoot, go for it.
Under change order, the first bullet, second sentence, it says the cost savings associated with this change would be 804.32. What are the cost savings here? I thought we're spending money.
I apologize. That must be from carryover text from a different change order.
Okay.
This is a cost. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I looked at that. Wait a second. Am I seeing something different here?
That would be nice. We'll get all the cardboard containers and save a lot of money.
And
Okay.
and just to have some background, this is just to kind of correct the current status. I mean, we already have these dumpers. This is just to correct the agreement, right? Pretty much, Claudia.
So as of last year, as of January, we had 2 cardboard containers added
Okay.
to the recycling drop-off site. And basically we want to do a change order so that that's permanently in place. And since that changeover is above, I think it's $20,000, that triggers needing to go back through council. So we can't just do the change order internally. It needs to go back through council.
Claudia, do you think this might just be temporary until, well, first of all, the economy opens up and people maybe stop ordering through the internet? Or secondly, at some point in the near future, we need to have an agenda item and discuss the drop-off site in general, because the costs that are associated with having it unstaffed seem to far exceed the cost of having it staffed. So if some point down the road we find that we don't need these extra 2, does that also require a contract amendment?
It would have to change it back, but I don't see that being a problem with Pelletieri. I think they would be very open to that. I do think the city's expanding and we're building new houses. So I agree with you. Some of it might be temporary with people ordering a lot more because of the pandemic. But as that might go down in the future, we're also expanding our population and the people who would legitimately be using the drop-off site. So I think, I'm not sure that we would get to a point that we would need the 2.
I think people probably have grown comfortable with ordering online now and having it delivered to their house. So I don't know if it'll change all that much or not after the pandemic. It may just stay status quo.
One other thing, Claudia, the dumpsters that are at the site now are kind of small, and they have covers. When I was there, most of the covers were open, which I think kind of defeats the point. But is it possible, instead of having several little ones, to have some big ones?
So the way that it's written into our contract is to have, I believe they're 9 cubic yard dumpsters. So that's written into our contract. If we wanted to change the sizes, that would be another change order. That would be outside of this.
Okay.
Hey, guys, I'm sorry. Can I step out real quick? I just got to tend my baby. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it, Nate.
Yeah.
You can continue with the meeting.
So they come by 5 times a week to pick up the dumpsters?
Yes, so they come by 5 times a week to pick up the dumpsters that were there previously, and these additional 2 will have the same schedule.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's like almost like one to come every day.
Mm-hmm.
So should we vote on this in his absence?
Yeah, I can go ahead and give so all in favor of resolution R-17-21 approving change orders to solid waste contract with Pelletieri, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. And so now we need a motion to approve resolution R-03-21, resolution authorizing Dane County services for stormwater permit review and inspection in 2021.
I make that motion.
Diane makes the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
I think that was Chris as a second.
Kim,
And open for
Oh.
discussion.
No, Chris second.
okay.
So this one is authorizing Dane County to provide permit review and construction inspection for the city of Fitchburg. That's something that they've been doing for us for several years now through an intergovernmental agreement.
And just to clarify, this is just something that we do at the beginning of every year, right? This is a
Yep. Mhm.
standard. Okay.
Do we vote on it?
Yep, all in favor of resolution R-03-21, resolution authorizing Dane County Services for stormwater permit review and inspection in 2021, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And we'll move on to, I need a motion to approve resolution R-13-21, approving a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the town of Dunn regarding the proposed USGS Swan Creek monitoring station.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
I second.
Great. Motion made by Ron, second by Diane. And Claudia, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, so a little bit of background on this. As you know, this year we're planning to, we're partnering with the town of Dunn and also USGS to install a USGS monitoring station on Swan Creek. And the town of Dunn has agreed to provide funding towards the initial installation and then ongoing annual funding for operational expenses after that. So this agreement basically just discusses how that would work and how we would get paid and who invoices whom.
I want to thank you, Ron and Gabriella, for your work on this and making this become a reality. This is pretty exciting. So thank you again. I know it was a lot of last minute stuff, but you guys came through.
Yeah, well, thank you. We're glad to have it.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
And Claudia, I'm sure that this is true, but just to clarify, this has gone through legal. It's kind of a
Yes.
standard MOU.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Well, any further discussion? All right, all in favor of resolution R-13-21, approving a memorandum of understanding with the town of Dunn regarding the proposed USGS Swan Creek monitoring station, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. And then we'll go on to the next one. I need a motion to approve resolution R-25-21, approving a joint funding agreement with the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, regarding the proposed USGS Swan Creek monitoring station.
I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Ron, second by Kim.
And this is similar to the last one. It's a joint funding agreement with USGS. It looks a little bit different just because USGS has a standard template that they use with municipalities. So that's what we used for this one.
Should we vote?
Yeah, so I'll just take this last one, Nate, and then you can hop back in. So all in favor of resolution R-25-21, approving a joint funding agreement with the USGS regarding the proposed USGS Swan Creek monitoring station, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. And so now it looks like we're on page 50 of the agenda packet.
Page 50. Thank you for taking over. Page 50. All right. So that's agenda item 4F then. Resolution R-3521. Do we have a motion to approve that one?
make that motion?
Diane.
Second.
Second, to approve the resolution to accept American Transmission Company ATC agreement regarding the public stormwater ponds with ATC easement at Crescent Crossing. All right, let's have a discussion on that one, because I guess I'm a little unfamiliar with that one.
So this is for public ponds at the Crescent Crossing neighborhood. The ponds were built on city property, but within an easement, an ATC easement. So basically this new agreement allows us to maintain those ponds and dredge the ponds. And it just gives us assurance that we'll be able to maintain the ponds as we need to.
If this is on city property, are we just trying to formalize and make it clear that this is what the city is going to be doing? Because it seems to me it's on city property, so we should be able to do it anyway.
No, so they do have certain rights within their easement. So this was required, and our city attorney did look at it and worked with the ATC's attorney as well to come to this agreement.
Well, then it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no cost, right?
Right, no cost.
To vote?
Yeah, I have no comments. Seems pretty straightforward and necessary to get this work done. So, let's put it to a vote. All in favor of approving resolution R-35-21, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, the motion carries to approve resolution R-35-21. Great. Nice and quick. And we're back on schedule, right, Ron?
Well, 30 minutes ahead of schedule, so.
Good job.
Well, there we go. I just had to step up for
Yeah.
to speed it up.
Just gotta load up the meetings with resolutions more often.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great. Thanks for powering through those, everybody. That's a lot of good resolutions. I know we don't really have too many throughout the year, but good to get them all done with right away. So let's move on to 4G, the draft MS4 annual report, of which I believe Claudia has prepared a good amount of work for, and we have more than 15 minutes now to talk about it.
So the city has a MS4 permit, which stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, with the DNR. And as part of that permit, we're required to submit an annual report that shows how we're meeting our permit requirements. There are 6 minimum control measures, which are public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site pollution control, post-construction stormwater management, pollution prevention, and stormwater quality management. Those are the main areas that we have requirements. So I included in the packet a draft of the MS4 annual report. And if anyone has questions or portions of that you wanted me to go into more detail, let me know.
Claudia, I have two things. On page 64 of the packet, it mentions that street sweeping follows the leaf collection. And I'm not sure that the street sweeper, I'm not sure that necessarily happens. It doesn't happen in my neighborhood. So I was thinking maybe you might want to reconsider the answer to that. I know the street sweeper comes out the same number of times as we have leaf collection, but one doesn't necessarily follow the other.
And I'm sorry, Diane, I'm not finding where you're pointing at.
It's page 64 of the packet, or let's see.
Maybe I'll share my screen.
It's not page 64 of the packet. Maybe I wrote down the wrong number. It's where you have to go through the yes and no questions. And you answered that street sweeping follows leaf collection, you answered yes. And I'm thinking that we might want to not say yes.
Well, I think, I know when leaf collection is occurring, we do have our street sweepers out going around the city and sweeping, and it does take time to get from one end of the city to the other end of the city. So it's not like Pelletari's truck is picking up the containers and we're right behind them with a sweeper truck. That wouldn't work logistically because they have more trucks out than we have sweeper trucks. But I think, I don't know. I mean, it's semantics. We're out at the same time with our sweeper trucks sweeping throughout the city. I guess I'm not really sure what they're getting at there, but that was my thought process when I said yes.
Well, remember those leaves I mentioned to you that were sitting in the road? And were not bundled up for the last leaf collection, and we're still sitting there because they weren't bundled up. And they're still sitting there now under the snow. So I don't think the street sweeper ever came around after that. I mean, maybe they came around before the leaves were picked up, or before, maybe they came the week before or something, but I'm just not sure that that's correct. Something for consideration. The other thing
Okay.
I was wondering, and this is actually the correct page number, it's page 71 of the packet. Let me get to that page. I was surprised that this post-construction stormwater management budget went up so much.
And that was from the vegetation budget amendment. So we have additional, it was $40,000 additional dollars for that specifically. And then it did, I'm trying to remember, let's see.
Help me out, is that the contract that we have with the people that are going around by stormwater? Or help me out with that.
No, so that would be an ecological company that would go to our areas where we have native plantings.
Okay.
And they'll do, prescribed burns or pesticide applications, that kind of thing.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Right. That's what the budget.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I had.
I have just a comment, I guess, on page 82 of the packet, about the winter road management. I was really pleased to learn that we do salt brining. I didn't actually realize that we did that. I was just wondering if you could just talk about that out of curiosity, and also was really interested to know that the salt brine is 80% salt water and 20% beet juice. I thought that was kind of fascinating, and I was wondering if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, so we buy our brine from, I believe it's either Dane County or the city of Madison. I forget which one. Mark Hodel, who's the street supervisor, gets that, and it's because the percent of salt needed, it has to be exactly right. Otherwise, you could be creating icy conditions, which you don't want, or you could be, putting down too much salt. So we do get our salt pre-mixed, our brine pre-mixed. And the beet juice, that was just something that Mark said, just based on his experience, it helps when you pre-wet the salt, it helps it stick to the road better. So you get less of the salt bouncing off of the road. So he found that to be even more effective than just using brine by using beet juice with that.
Gabriella, actually, Bill's predecessor came from a city in Illinois, and they used beet juice, I guess, quite a bit. And it's, I think, fairly common now.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy to see that.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention it at council. I think it's nice for people to realize that when we do winter road management, we're doing it in a responsible way and more modern way, rather than just dumping rock salt. We use sand when appropriate and salt brine in advance. So it was just great to see that written out.
I'm glad to see beet used for something.
We heard something about that on the radio a few months ago. I don't remember if it was Wisconsin Public Radio or another program. I would imagine if I asked my wife, she'd remember where it was from. And if I can find that story, I'll send it out to all of you. It's pretty cool.
Please.
This is quite a report, Claudia. You must have spent quite a bit of time on it.
And the place where you have to put in all of this material online is very slow.
Hope you can save your progress.
Yes.
Go back to it. Does it change from year to year, or are you able to just kind of transfer stuff and?
Well, the information changes from year to year. All of the numbers will change from year to year in terms of what's collected and all of that. And then it pretty much does change from year to year. The what is this? The appendices is I've been using that format since I started. I think that's either Bill or Rick, my two predecessors. Someone put that together. So I have a nice template to work with the appendices, but all of the information has to get updated.
Yeah, a lot of work, but I think it looks really good.
Is this your first time through this report?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to say, with all the snow we've had and freezing conditions, the city's done a great job managing our roads. So,
Absolutely.
very impressed.
Good job, Claudia.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good work. I don't have any comments. I'm assuming you're going to plan on submitting this soon-ish.
Yeah, it's due in March, and one of the requirements is that we bring it for public input. So fulfilling that requirement today, and then I'll have Bill present it to Board of Public Works and Common Council as well.
Okay. Great. Do you need anything else from the commission on feedback or?
No, it's mostly just informative, and then if anyone has feedback, so I'll definitely consider Diane's feedback earlier on the street sweeping.
Great. Well, cool. Thanks for sharing. All right, if there's no comments, we can move on to 4H. You might have seen my email for the upcoming chair vacancy I sent out maybe a week ago. I've chosen to not renew my subscription to this commission, and it was a very tough decision. Like I said, I think everyone's lives have turned upside down this past year, and ours has included. And I kid you not, that wasn't a planned absence that I had to go help my daughter. But it's time is non-existent. Free time is non-existent for us, and I figured I did my time. I think there's someone else out there that could devote a little bit more time than I could. It was a tough choice, but I gotta move on, and hopefully I can find some time in the future to come back to this great commission. I think I've been on here 3 years, and it really has been fun. It's done a lot of good stuff, and I think this group is moving in the right direction toward a lot of good things. I feel like we've really broadened a lot of good topics. We've had Claudia's joined, and Phil's now joined, and everyone brings their own little story to this commission. So I think it's in good hands. Hopefully we can fill the vacant position, of which I think the city does a good job advertising that. I see the blasts from time to time, but Claudia, I don't know if you know any about the progress of how that works or whatever, but I don't know if it's up to us to help market a replacement.
Yeah, before we move to that, Nate, I was just thinking when you sent that email out, in the time that you've been on RCC, you bought a house, you got married, and you had a child. So Thank you for, in addition to all of that, making time to not only be a commission member, but also chair. You definitely have a very full plate, and I can certainly understand your decision, but you know, we still have those volunteer opportunities that you can help us out with.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that, Diane. Thank you so much. And yeah, like I said, you won't be not seeing me. I'll be at the events for sure, nonetheless.
With respect to your question, at least, Nate, I think if anybody knows somebody who they think might be a good fit for RCC, you know, I don't know, Claudia, if the application for this role is already available on the city website, but you know, absolutely feel free to direct people towards it. You know, the more applications we get, then the harder the decision becomes, and that's a good thing.
Yep, and I just wanted to point to the packet. The packet has a link to where you can go to find that application, and there's instructions on how to submit that. Appointments are made by the mayor in April, and applications can be submitted anytime.
I don't know how the current mayor handles this, but at least in the past, they usually consult with the chair or members of RCC. I guess in this case, it might be with Nate. And if RCC recommends somebody, usually, you know, that will be taken into consideration. So if you know somebody that might be a good fit, definitely encourage them to apply and maybe let Nate know about it.
And also for reference, so the mayoral application form it's the same for every commission. You just select which commission you want to, and you have the option to like name additional commissions that you'd be interested in. And so we may actually have one or more that are already in the queue for people that are interested, have stated interest. That being said, everyone that's interested should apply if they'd like to. But you literally can turn in, for anyone that's watching, you can literally turn in an application at any time for any city commission, even if there's not an opening, and just kind of declare your interest. So yeah, I think we should all reach out and encourage people to apply. And you know, certainly it's not out of the question to reach out to the mayor and with your own recommendation for a person that's applied, and definitely keep me apprised if you all have some recommendations as well. Although I'm just one vote on the council for approving it, and the mayor is the one that makes the nomination. And then last is you'll definitely be missed, Nate, and hopefully we'll see you.
Yeah,
we'll
thank you, Nate.
Maybe see you in person someday in the future.
Well, you still have one more meeting with us, Nate.
Yeah.
Claudia, is it on the website that there's an opening? Do you know?
I guess I don't know. I don't believe there's a spot where that's listed.
There is a spot. I just don't know. I can't find it right now, but I've seen it before when it says that there are some openings.
Yeah, that's how I
anyway.
found it before.
You have?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with Lisa. I know Lisa's on top of things. She's actually the person who brought it to my attention that we have some terms that were expiring. So I would assume she would put it there, but I'll double check.
Okay, thanks.
And will she maybe do a Facebook ad as well for open positions on commission?
Oh, that's a good idea. I can make that recommendation.
Okay. So thank you, Nate, for your service. Happy to pass the torch to you a couple of years back. You've worked through a pandemic, and you know, definitely can understand, as I was similar in your shoes back in the early, like around 2011, and had to step away for a little bit from RCC in that time. So thank you for all of your service. Really very much appreciated. So then, so is the term up in April? So then does that mean we would be appointing a new commissioner at the March meeting?
May. We vote for a new chair in May.
Okay. But we'll go into that meeting, you know, if his term's ended, so we'll essentially be chairless going into the meeting. Is that correct?
So the way I read it, and I'll just share the ordinance language here. The ordinance language says committees, commissions, and boards shall appoint by majority vote of those present and voting a chair at the May meeting of each odd numbered year, or whenever a vacancy occurs in that position unless stated otherwise in this chapter. So I think we could vote for a chair, a 1 month chair at the March meeting, just so that we have a chair for the May meeting, and then we would vote again for the permanent chair. Is the way I read that.
What we've done in the past, Claudia, is technically, unless Nate's resigning early, technically his term expires when a replacement is put in his spot. At least that's the guidance that we received from the city before. But as the chair, as far as the agenda goes, the previous chair will set the agenda, and then the current chair just assumes it, which is a little bit awkward, but that's how it's been done before.
So our first item of business would be voting on the chair, and then they would run the meeting after that. Is that how that works?
Yes.
Okay, I see. Okay.
But you can, if you can check, but that's how we did it. That's how we have done it.
I think that's going to work. Yeah, I think that will work.
You're not going to jump ship early, are you, Nate?
No, I'll be here. I'll be at least the next meeting to host, and then to go along with that plan to prepare the May agenda to make sure that that's all set. And I'm sure I've already received interest from Ron, so I don't have any concern with at least the spot taking place. So
Yay, Ron.
not to say anyone else can show interest.
Well, I think we will vote at the May meeting.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds good. If Claudia, that sounds good. I'll still be here for the March meeting. We'll get the agenda ready for the May meeting, and then you guys will vote in May then.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate everyone's feedback. Yeah, it's been good, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon enough in person, online, at events. I'm planning on staying in Fitchburg for a while too, so.
That's good.
Fitchburg's got a lot going for it.
We're going to see you at the Spring Waterway Cleanup, right?
Yeah. I'll be there. I don't know, that spot that we were at last year, we did our own little get together behind Laredo's and at the Yarmouth Crossing. That place is always trashy. So yeah, okay, sounds good. If there's no other comments or questions, we can move on to, like we were just talking about, the Spring Waterway Cleanups, agenda item 4I. And looks like Claudia, you were listed for that, and there's something in the packet under the page 95 then.
Yep, so I was just bringing this up to get it on everyone's radars. I know April seems far away right now, but before we know it, it's going to be here. So just start thinking about if you have any interest in leading or participating in a waterway cleanup. In the past, I know RCC members have led events throughout the city at different locations. So think about that if there's one that you have any interest in. I know this year I am planning to at least participate, if not lead an event as well. And yeah, so we've been given the go ahead to plan this. I know last year we had to cancel due to COVID, but the feeling is that we can go ahead and do that as long as we're meeting the Dane County health guidelines. And then of course with the caveat that with this pandemic, things have been unpredictable. So, things may change, but hopefully we'll be going forward with this and we can go ahead and plan it.
Dane County just relaxed their guidelines for many things, including outdoor gatherings. So as long as, if we're not serving food, we can have 125 people. So I don't think we'll run into a problem with that.
Unless we do excellent advertising.
Even if. Claudia, last year, my husband and I cleaned up the area we did around the golf course, the waterway, the creek that goes through the golf course, and up to Fish Hatchery Road. And I mentioned to you that there was quite a bit of clogging by there's an outflow that empties into this side of the creek that goes under Fish Hatchery Road. And then later this year, I saw crews working there. And so I was just wondering, have they fixed that? That accumulates a lot of litter. So if it's not been fixed, maybe I'll head out there again this year. But do you know that, have they fixed the problem?
I guess I don't know specifically if they've cleaned out litter from that area.
Not litter. It was more heavy duty stuff.
Was it like tree branches and that kind of thing, just blocking?
Well, some things were stuck behind like a grate that empties into the creek, and then going under Fish Hatchery, there was a lot of stuff that had accumulated, like sediment that needs to be cleaned out so the creek can flow under there.
Oh, so you're talking about sediment buildup, not necessarily debris blocking.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's Nine Springs Creek, and dredging it. So it's not like a roadside ditch, which you can just go in with equipment and take out material. If you want to dredge within a waterway, that's different permitting. That's not something that we can just go out and do.
As I recall, the sediment was in the culvert that goes under the road.
Oh, okay.
Does that make a difference?
So Diane, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure if that's a problem. Sometimes you actually design culverts so that it has a natural bottom, and that's for critters and that kind of thing. Actually, if you have a concrete base to your culvert, it can actually cause more problems for fish and that kind of thing, because it's going through this unnatural stream bed, and it can cause what's the word? Abrasion.
Abrasions, yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's not actually clogging and causing flow to back up. I don't think just having sediment on the bottom of that culvert is necessarily a problem.
It's not uneven sediment. It's like mounds of it on either side of the opening. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and
if it wasn't so cold, I'd walk over there and take a picture, but I'm going to wait till it warms up a little bit. We can talk about this in March.
Yeah, and I do remember, I'll see if I can dig up a photo. I remember I did walk out there last year to take a look. I was looking at something else, but I looked at that culvert you're talking about, and I don't remember seeing a problem.
Okay.
But I'll see if I can find that photo. Maybe I can pull it up and see if we can see what you're talking about.
Anyway, I'd be happy to help with the cleanup. I'm planning on doing that. But like I said, when it gets a little bit more mild, I'll check that area out again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but I know there's been a construction crew kind of right there. I don't know if they're rebuilding something, adding on, because the next phase of Fish Hatchery is going to go right there. So I may have noticed that there's a crew there. So maybe it looks different, or maybe they're dealing with the sediment. I don't know, but maybe something to look at, Diane, when you go check it out.
Yep.
Claudia, I'd be willing to volunteer to help with this program. So just let me know what I need to do.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we'll talk about it in more detail at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the waterway cleanup, is that gonna be in April then? Is that the date you're shooting for, or the even?
Yes, so it's gonna be sometime in April, usually I think at the March meeting, we'll pick a date and we'll also ask everyone what areas we want to do, and then we'll develop the maps. There might be a map that's already been developed if you're doing an area that's been done in the past, or if you want to do a new area, then we can develop a new map, and then we would start advertising. But the date and the locations we'll pick at the March meeting.
We,
Just
if
wanted
March
to get it.
March for April, is that enough time? Shouldn't we choose a date now and then have a little bit of extra time to advertise it? Because it seems like if I remember right, we felt like we were rushing last year. Is that right? Or the year before last, I guess.
We can pick a date today. I don't see a problem with that.
if we want to put something in the Star,
Yeah.
we need to get that in the, well, depending on when we do it in April, but if it's earlier in April, we need to get it in the March Star. So if we wait until March 8th to pick a date, I don't think we'll get it in the Star.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess I was thinking we usually do like the third. I thought we usually do the third week in April, but correct, if we did sooner in April, then we'd want to get it into the March Star. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at our April calendar and pick a date.
Claudia, I was just gonna say, Chris, I know we've, in our outreach meetings, and I know we're gonna talk about this later, we have a couple events that we're planning, and I know we haven't, I don't think, picked those dates. So I would just want to make sure that whatever date we pick, it doesn't conflict with the other two events that we're planning to do in April. The Arbor Day and the tree diversity.
Yeah, well, I think the tree diversity is gonna be in June, but the Arbor Day would be
Okay,
the last weekend. It's almost like the first weekend of May, so it's like April 30th.
okay, okay.
May 1st, so I think, stay away from that. I know we've tried to stay away from Crazy Legs in the past. I don't even know what's happening with that.
What about the school spring break? Do you know when that is?
So the
End of March,
schools is the last week in March that goes
March and through the
second.
first week of April. Yeah, through the second and third of April.
So how
Yeah,
about,
so probably stay away from that first weekend, I would say.
How about
Well,
the 17th or 24th?
that's Easter anyway.
Yep.
How
So
about
how
the 17th or 24th?
Well, if we get too far in, Ron, we end up fighting mosquitoes. So we've tried, the only reason that we did it later in April 2 years ago was because the electronics event was scheduled earlier. But I would suggest maybe the 10th.
Yeah, and we're not having a recycling event, so the 10th
Right.
has been a previous conflict. I'm looking at Crazy Legs right now, and it says, doesn't really say anything. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we are working to evaluate our format for the 2021 event. Please check back for additional information. So I don't think Crazy Legs is going to happen. And they're normally later in April anyway. So I think April 10th. The other one is not necessarily mosquito. There's some risk, no matter what weekend we do in April, it could be brutal weather, no matter when we pick. But also the grass starts to grow. So, although when you look outside today, it's hard to believe that in a month and a half we'll be, kind of coming up on growth and whatnot. But as we get closer, traditionally when we get closer to April 20th or 27th, we start to have some growth, in the ditches and whatnot. And so it's kind of nice to do it in the first half of April. So I think April 10th is a good date to target for now. I know I'm probably certainly open. That seems to be the theme of late. So I'm good with that date.
Good for me too.
And it's also good to do it before the leaves start to open up. At least the areas that I do are fairly heavily wooded. It's just easier to get in and out of some places. And And that way we can do the 10th, and if we end up having a snowstorm, we can push it back to the next week.
That's what I was going to say. So maybe our rainy day date or our snow day date will be the 17th. And we'll advertise that too.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Does anyone know just offhand already if you want to lead or participate in an event? And do you already, I know some people have done this in the past, so you might already know what area you want to do.
Yeah, I'll do my Quarry Hill area again.
I'll do Swan Creek.
I'll co-lead Swan Creek with Shelley, unless we feel like there's another area that, you know, needs attention around the city.
The area that Nate and I've done, I think we did that 2 years ago, Nate, north of McKee along the, whatever creek that's called, Yarmouth Greenway Creek or something. It's parallel to Yarmouth Greenway. There's always litter there. There's always, some of it's blown, some of it's thrown. And actually, if the water level is not too high, it's a pretty scenic area to clean up. So it's either between that, in my opinion, or that area that by the golf course that goes under Fish Hatchery.
I'd be happy to participate.
What I've done for a while is Harlan Hills we've done in the past. So we kind of start at the pond. It would be right at Seminole Highway and PD, and then kind of walk down that pond, and then it crosses over and goes to the Dolly Park or Dolly Conservancy, whatever it is, you know, and works, you know, but there's also some ponds in the first part of Harlan Hills that we've gone and cleaned up. So this would be on the far western side of Harlan Hills. The ponds there are pretty close to the new bike path that was put in there. That's another area that we've cleaned up before. It's been a little bit of time, but there are quite a few ponds and little waterways in that area.
I think, Chris, that somebody in either the Girl Scouts or some Harlan Hills residents adopted those and have cleaned those up in the past. I'm not positive, but another area is Dunn's Marsh. Unfortunately, there's always a lot of debris over there, so we don't lack for areas.
I'm happy to participate. You can put me on whatever area is most in need. Happy to lead.
I'll lead an area. I don't care where it's at. I mean, I could do Dunn's Marsh area.
Okay, and I think I was interested in Yarmouth Greenway. So Diane, if you're doing that one, then I'll do that one with you. And if you decide to do the golf course, then I'll do that one maybe with Gabriella.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds like everyone wants to get out.
Yeah.
This is great.
All right, great.
Good, yeah, I'll probably be out too. I don't know if I need to lead something, I could do that, but yeah, I'll be out there too. Super, yeah, I think we'll at least we can advertise the date when we need to get stuff out, but then we'll make most of the wrinkles in the March meeting. I know Claudia said the maps were very helpful, so we can talk about those and all the other details, but good to have the dates.
Claudia, maybe when you put an announcement in the Star, you can just tell people to refer to the website for locations if we're going to firm that up in March.
Right, I think that's what I'll do. So I'll make a web page, and then until we have maps and have firmed up the locations, it will just say check back here.
Okay, good.
If you do something for Facebook, send us, little
Facebook.
flyer or something so we can
Okay.
post it on our neighborhoods.
Yep.
I thought we had an idea, at some point if having businesses adopt certain parts, it might be some more work, but, eventually building towards, doing that. And maybe this year isn't the year to roll that out, because I think, we're going to cover a lot of ground with, just this group leading activities, but I still do want to see if there's a way that we can develop that idea. I know that in the past, I think Target has had volunteers, and so they've cleaned up some area. There's some ponds and waterways behind the Target that they have addressed. I know in the past, that we've gotten comments that the fish hatchery corridor was really quite dirty. And it seemed like once we got those and looked at it, that corridor had magically cleaned up by somebody. So I think that some people just go out and do things. I'm just not sure that it's a coordinated effort. So I'm not sure where that goes, but I think I'd love to work through towards a more community effort on it at some point.
How
And
about,
I know-
Claudia, how about if in your announcement, you indicate, I think we did this several years ago, if somebody's interested in organizing a group to clean up, to just contact you, because it seems to me either one or two of the churches just south of PD have also done some cleanup. So, and if they want to adopt some of the places that we've already talked about, we'll find other places to clean up.
Yep, and that's not too hard if someone wants to volunteer to clean up on a city area. The only thing that we would need is for them to sign a waiver form, and then they can do that.
They also the church picked the weekend that they wanted to do it. So as long as they do it, I don't think we need to be concerned about the weekend.
Right. Okay. Good discussion. Yeah, well, we'll circle back next month, but yeah, thanks for getting that going, Claudia, with the star and the webpage. Right, let's move on to some old business now. 5A, the draft 2021 calendar of events. That's included in the packet, and that starts on page 91. Our last meeting we had approved, or I guess, yeah, we did approve to add 2 additional meetings. And so Chris and I kind of had a brief discussion on how to really fill that. And I guess we did talk about it, of how we'd want to maybe make these special topic meetings, one for sustainability and one for stormwater, where we kind of focus on that to start the meeting, have some guest speakers or maybe a keynote speaker, and have public input. And so I think that's still a great idea. And so after talking with Chris, we kind of decided that June and October would be those months, and doesn't matter which one comes. Well, no, I take that back. Stormwater would probably be in June, just because everyone probably had a wet May and April, and would have questions and stories to tell. And then October, maybe the same thing, but that's just kind of how it's set up right now. So we didn't really change that much, besides just some of the formalized things to happen at those June meetings. So it's included in the packet as a draft, and I think we're going to make one last call for any comments on that, either now or email, to really finalize it, just so that this can be in stone for the rest of the year, and then to also help the new chair. I know this has helped me, and I'm sure other chairs, to plan agendas, and so that's kind of where it's at now. I don't know if anyone has any burning comments on the few minor changes that were made.
I would just encourage an addition in March about including something on the city's page of the star. In the past, when people have been nice enough to go out and pull garlic mustard, they need to dispose of it properly, and to help them dispose of it properly, which is putting it in a refuse bag and putting it out in their refuse, the city has provided extra tags for them, so they didn't have to buy a tag for the garlic mustard. So I think, if nothing else, in March, we need to remind people how they should dispose of garlic mustard, the proper disposal. And if the city is still willing to provide a tag, then they should contact, whoever they should contact to get that done.
In terms of the special topic meetings, I think the timing from my perspective is pretty spot on because I might be looking at some stormwater CIP projects changes in July. So having at the meeting in June would be very helpful. And then October, having the sustainability discussion could help inform budget amendments, which would probably be due mid-October for a vote in November. So seems great. Seems like
Yeah.
really.
Good. No, that's good to know. I know last meeting we had talked about this the sustainability plan and kind of circling back to that toward the end of the year too. So I think that's a double whammy then for that one.
I want to thank you and Chris for working on this. It's as you said, it's very helpful for you, for the chair, to put the agenda together, but also it keeps us on track so we don't miss things, and it just keeps us moving forward.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it had to unfortunately kind of cut back on a couple things this year, and so hopefully those will add back in next year when we can do some, some of the main events. I know one of the things that I was a little sad to take out was the annual event that we would have with Promega as of the last kind of year or two, and so I hope that gets put back in, and that, and then the Green Thursday events. I think there might still be one in here toward the end of the year, but doing more of those, planned movie nights and stuff like that, I think that should get put back in for next year.
Yeah, I think, and I did talk to Promega about that. They're going to be very busy with vaccination, and they have been busy with, all of the reagents and testing, kind of their role with all of that. And so I think they would like to, keep the door open to potentially do something in the fall yet for an annual event, but nothing has been decided on that as of yet. So I will keep you guys informed if something starts to pop on that.
Oh, I meant to mention something to think about for like a Green Thursday event. Bob Lindmeyer, who just retired from being the chief meteorologist on ABC Channel 7, is available to give and is willing and wants to give talks on climate change. And I thought that, I don't know how you feel about this, but I thought he might be a pretty good draw. So something to think about.
He would be. That would be a great one to do in the auditorium at Promega, because we have, a little larger space there than we would at the meeting room at the library. So it seems like we're a little ways away from that, but, maybe it's a possibility in the fall of this year if we're starting to get back to normal.
We will, I am positive.
Well, cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Diane. I think that's excellent. I know, hearing Joe Parisi last time, I think that, there's something about being a public figure really reaches to people.
Yeah.
That and they're just excellent speakers to begin with, but well, that's good. So yeah, let's I'll give everybody another month to make comments. Maybe I'll make a final. I'll send it out with an email with a deadline so that we can then put the final copy in the next meeting packet just for everybody to have. So look for the email with the deadline of when to provide any final comments on it. Okay. There's no other comments about the calendar of events for 2021. Move on to 5B, the tree diversity event, which I would love to hear more information on from Chris, Gabriella, and Phil.
And Kim serves on it too. So
Okay.
we have kind of a whole bunch of us that have been working on it. So, kind of the root of it is, we've had like the emerald ash borer disease going through trees. There's other diseases out there. And so, as a community, trying to get more diversity with our trees. So I think the parks, understands it pretty well. Arborists at even landscaping companies ask for it well. The kind of the aspect that needs work is the homeowners. So I don't know how many of you have gone out, and Gabrielle kind of hit on this, when we had this whole start to this conversation, but the one that really resonates with me is thinking about my own situation where you have the landscaper come out and people say, well, I want my maple or I want my birch tree, and everybody asks for very similar things, and so you'll see an overabundance of maples and birch trees in different subdivisions because a landscaper is told that that's what the homeowner wants, and what the homeowner wants is what they get. But I just think that there's a general lack of awareness on the importance of tree diversity and trying to find unique trees to put up in your landscapes. There's also kind of the story of oaks. We always seem to save and this is I think what Gabriella had mentioned earlier. We always save the older oaks, but let's also save some of the younger middle-aged oaks as well, so that we have those maturing to the same space. So those are kind of the why, and there's
Did we lose you, Chris?
That's you.
Yeah. Do we know over at the Terra Vesa development, are they putting in trees for each of those homes around there? And do we know what type of trees they're putting in?
Yes, they have a big plan that they've put together and work with the city of Fitchburg on about what they're doing. They're even doing some natural erosion control and things like that over there. So there's a whole lot. You can go to their website and look at everything that they're doing, and they've worked with Fitchburg City on that.
Okay.
And I do believe our city forester is involved in the picking of trees for new developments. So she has a direct hand in that, which is nice because she has that focus of choosing the best trees for variety.
Good.
So, Phil or Gabriella, since I think we've temporarily lost Chris, can you fill us in a little bit more? Or actually, Kim, are you still there with us? Is Kim gone too? Oh, there
No,
she
I'm
is.
here. I'm here.
Can you fill us a little bit more on this event? What your thinking is, or the planning? No?
Oh, who were you asking, Gabriella or Phil?
Any
or
of the
myself?
three? Anybody?
I actually had to miss the last meeting, so Kim, if you can. jump
Okay, sure. So we've been talking about different interactive ways that we can engage the neighbors and homeowners. And so what we're thinking of doing is holding an event, and it was recommended to do something at the Quarry Hill Park because they have had to kind of clear that out because of the emerald ash borer. And they've, over the last couple of years, have been able to go in and really plant some diverse trees. And so there would be the idea of holding an outside event for a family-friendly event, basically, and kind of walk around. We're trying to work out like the details of how we would do this, but whether there would be tree tags or a map, and kind of talk through, and show like kind of what the different diverse trees would be like. And I know at one of the meetings, Phil, I think, had talked about doing some sort of interactive game or something that we were kind of also talking about as well.
Would you have any vendors from nurseries there? Because I'd be, curious to find out. Yeah, I'd like to buy some oak trees from our property, but who do I get them from? Where do I get them from?
You know, we didn't talk about that. You know, Anna, who is with the city of Fitchburg, you know, at one point we had kind of talked about doing some sort of educational effort to these nurseries, because that seems to be a big problem, because you know, they're just kind of recommending whatever tree you know, sells well, or whatever the homeowner is asking for. But she's actually going to be on a panel and kind of be addressing them. And we thought that, you know, appealing to the homeowner made more sense in terms of some of the community outreach we could be doing.
But as a homeowner, I would like to know where I can go get a tree. You tell me to plant oaks and maples and all those things. Okay.
Yeah, well, we do have some local vendors that the city of Fitchburg works with, where we could, there was no talk about inviting them, but I'm sure that's something we could, you know, talk about.
Well, I think it's important that we let people know where they can buy these trees.
Yeah, no, that was,
Yeah,
yeah,
educating
we're
them.
definitely planning to do that as well, because we had started talking about where are some of the nurseries locally that we would recommend.
Okay.
Kim, maybe
So I
you
don't
could-
know that we would invite them, but we could definitely, you know, provide that information.
maybe you could have a handout of nurseries where people might
Yeah.
want to consider
Yep,
selecting their tree.
That'd be a good idea.
yep. Yeah,
Is Anna going to be available for this event?
yeah, oh yeah, she, and then Jeremy, Gabriella or Phil, help me out with.
Jeremy Hecht. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've all been involved in the planning of this.
Are you thinking of Earth Day?
So that was one of the challenges we had because of the trees not really being, you know, in full bloom at that point. And so I think that was where Chris was talking about doing something like that around the end of June. But we are looking at doing an Arbor Day event where we would be planting some trees. So there's like kind of two separate events where we would be planting some trees around parts of the city and doing some educational efforts with that. And I had at the last meeting thrown out the suggestion where we could do like adopt a tree, because we were talking about how do you plant a tree and stay within, you know, the protocols, because depending on the size of the tree, it takes more than one person, you know, to plant the tree. And so Anna was talking about some of the trees that they could get would be, you know, smaller sizes, and we could do kind of like pods of families who would be willing to adopt a tree to plant. And we'd also talked about working through our neighborhood associations to see if maybe they would be willing to donate some money for a tree. And then the city has money in their budget for other plantings. So we kind of talked about some of that as well
Are you doing
as an event.
Is this in conjunction with the tree advisory committee? I mean,
Yeah, the tree diversity group of us. Yeah, so there would be two different events. There would be this tree planting, which would be kind of around Arbor Day at the end of April that we had mentioned, and do some educational efforts where we'd be planting some diverse trees in parts of the city where there's need for additional trees. And then the tree diversity event, which would be at the end of June.
the Arbor Day planting, that's something the city has done every year. I don't know who
Right.
organizes that, but
Anna is involved in that.
Yeah, it's
okay.
part of the tree diversity, the tree advisory committee.
I'd be careful about using the phrase adopt a tree, because I think I think it's a good idea to get pods, you know, groups of like family members to plant the tree, but if you say adopt a tree, that might be misconstrued as buying the tree.
Yeah, well, we had talked about there are different ways we could phrase it where people could, you know, it could be like a in memorandum or in honor. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be adopt a tree, and we're not talking about them having to purchase it because we'd be using money from that the city has in their budget already for that.
Okay.
So we would be careful of how we worded it, but we did talk about reaching out to some of the neighborhood associations, especially, for instance, in Quarry Hill. We would be looking at probably planting some trees there. Chris had talked about Swan Creek. There's other areas of the city that Anna had identified that would need some additional plantings as well.
Just real quick, FYI, I'm on the homeowners association board of Swan Creek, and we have been notified by the city of Fitchburg about trees, and if we wanted to pay for half, there was this discussion that I wasn't there for, but I can find out more information. I know that the city of Fitchburg upset Swan Creek's HOA. So, I mean, just the officers. So I can give some more information about that because of the requirement of what they wanted. We wanted to plant trees along with them, but then we would have been in charge of taking care. It was a whole thing. So it might be something that we need to get clarity on.
Yeah.
Before you go forward with the homeowner, contact the homeowner associations, because I think there's some rules. I'll try and find that information.
Okay.
I do, one thing I want to mention, when I've seen the city plant trees, they tend, at least the ones that they planted in one of them on my street, they didn't put a gator bag with it. And I don't know if they're depending on the homeowner to water it. And, some homeowners may and some may not. And we're now on the third tree because the homeowners are not watering it. So, if you're going to encourage tree planting, then we really need to have gator bags with them. You can't. That just don't make sense.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely mention that at our next meeting.
Sounds good, though. Thank you for working on it.
Yeah, no, we're very excited. And actually, in these discussions, I said my article that I would write for the Fitchburg Star, I would write an article from the homeowner perspective of what happened to us when we moved into our new area and planted some trees. So,
Good.
Hey,
Chris
Kim.
is back.
Chris.
Hey, Kim, we got that information from was Jake Johnson. He's a Fitchburg resident and tree planting event planner. I'll cut and paste this and send it to you guys so you can see what he was requesting.
Okay.
I don't know if he sent that to other homeowner associations, but it was, I don't know, it wasn't well received by ours, just FYI.
So Chris, just to catch you up really quickly, I was just kind of going through the tree diversity event we had talked about, and then also talked a little bit about the Arbor Day event as well. And so some of the comments were that Shelley was just talking about is when we had talked about that the city of Fitchburg had money in their budget for tree planting, and we had talked about potentially contacting neighborhood associations, to see if they'd be willing to help purchase trees. And Shelley said that something similar had happened in Swan Creek and it didn't go over well. So she was just giving us a heads up on how that was approached. And then Diane had also suggested that that there be gators on, gator bags on the trees as well, if we're expecting people to take care and water these trees.
Very good. I'm sorry. I had an unannounced restart that my computer decided.
Oh.
and it took about 10 minutes to get back up and running. So, I don't know where that came from. I haven't had that happen since the pandemic started on this laptop, but it decided to do it right when I was talking. So I apologize for that. Thanks for covering, Kim. Good idea.
Yeah,
everyone.
Yeah, the other thing that Ron had suggested, and I think we had talked about it, you can remind me if we did, is at the tree diversity event, if we were going to at least have a sheet that listed local nurseries. I think we had talked about that, where people could get various trees.
Yep. Yeah, I think you've covered everything and captured, good ideas from everyone. We do plan to meet again in March and kind of set a final plan for the Arbor Day events. I guess the one concern was, planting trees, and Kim, maybe you mentioned this, that, the plan would be to do more container trees, because we thought that that could be done by a family or two people, and not need to intermingle different households with it. But, we're excited about it. I think we'll have, more information coming, but, we probably won't have that meeting until after our March meeting, and then we won't reconnect until May. So there may be more details coming out in late March and April on, what we'll be, doing for this event, and, how people can participate and so forth. And Shelley, that's good information to know that, how the neighborhood associations responded. I think there may be some other avenues to go down with that, but I do like the idea with so many people having lost people to do a tree in memory of, or a tree in memory of a pet, or in honor of somebody. I think that those could be, pretty popular. So we'll continue to develop those ideas and share with everybody on the RCC. And again, I apologize for my unexpected departure.
Not your fault.
No worries. Hey, that received as part of the homeowners association was, like I said, from Jake, and they have a program with the city to purchase trees and plant them in our parks. So you guys may want to get with them, so we don't overlap, maybe. So I'm sending.
Is he on the tree advisory committee, or he's not?
No, he's not.
He is Fitchburg resident and tree planting event planner. So I'll send.
He used to be an alder, and I'm just thinking, we have a tree advisory committee, and we have Jake's group.
This was from Jake's group, I think. So I'll send that to you, Kim and Chris, right now.
Could you send it also to me, please?
You betcha.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thanks.
There's a whole group on it.
Yeah, hopefully 1 + 1 = 3 in that situation. I don't want to be working down parallel paths.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have that Arbor Day event on our calendar, schedule events?
We don't have it officially scheduled yet, because there were some, we just kind of wanted to see how COVID was going to go. So we haven't set it in stone yet. But, the plan for that is to happen, around Arbor Day, which is April 30th, May 1st, that weekend. And then the June diversity event would be probably at Quarry Hill Park. And, that would be sometime in the middle of June. So.
Chris, I appreciate the collaboration, but as I mentioned when you were offline, this Arbor Day planting has been an annual event for as long as I can remember, and I would just encourage you and Kim and Phil to maybe assist with it, and let the people that have normally organized it take the lead, since we already have so many things that we're trying to coordinate.
Yeah, I think, our goal is to try to reach, different base of people. And so, we'll let them, plan that event, and not try to get into too many of the details on it. But, I think, our role as community outreach subcommittee being involved is to, try to expand that event. The diversity event is more of kind of a, I think, more of a joint event.
Yeah.
Where, we will have a more of a role in, kind of how that actual event will take place and the content, but we'd be getting a speaker from the DNR and that type of thing would be, part of it. So, we will have, more of a role with the planning of that event, but, I appreciate you re-mentioning that so that we don't, overstep our bounds, with our, ambition to plan events and not having had one for a while to plan.
I just had one quick comment. So if you all are going to be putting together a list of nurseries, of local nurseries, I just wanted to let you know that the city, we don't technically give recommendations for people to go to, and that's a liability thing. But we did put together a list of stormwater contractors and inspectors and that kind of thing. And we got some language that the city attorney was happy with, and we just put it at the top of that. And it basically says that this is a resource, not a recommendation. So I'll put a link to that in the chat so you can see what that resource looks like. And maybe you guys can just use the same language when you put together your document.
Very good.
Oh, great, excellent stuff. I'm happy to hear that that's cooking and is going on my calendar for sure. Because I think there's a lot there with the biodiversity. It's just not a regular tree event. I think it digs deeper and makes you think about trees a little bit more. So I think that's great. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Seems like you guys have thought about it a lot and coordinated well, and I'm looking forward to it. So, and we're still on schedule. We're about 15 minutes ahead of schedule, so I think we're moving good. Can move on to the next item. The last item of old business, 5C, discussion of the next steps for school cafeteria recycling programs, which is always a nice, interesting topic during the pandemic. So, Quinn and Chris, you want to give us an update?
Sure, I guess I'll try to start again and hope my computer doesn't restart on me. Hopefully that's over for the year. Kim and Diane and I have had a couple of meetings now with Aldo Leopold Elementary School. And what we're working to figure out is a means to collect cartons in the classrooms, as we think most meals will be in the classrooms when students return. Obviously there's no students in the Madison schools right now. They do have some programs that are in place, and so we're looking to do more of a pilot right now to try out some ideas that we have. But it's, and then, I'm working with another school in the Madison School District. So the challenge with Leopold is that they don't have sinks in most of their classrooms. So, the leftover milk in a carton is a challenge that we have to work through. And the challenge that we put onto ourselves with it, there's a solution we could come up with, but we're also sustainability people within the community, so we don't want to come up with a solution with buying a bunch of plastic containers that will never get used after students eventually return to a cafeteria. And so our challenge is to try to come up with a solution that even if there's some containers used in the classroom setting, that those would have some value in the cafeterias, and maybe not just at this school, but potentially other schools across the district. And so we're working on that. We have a lot more horsepower behind us now, with Sustained Ain as a partner with us in rolling this out. Again, this grant came from the Carton Council that we're working with, and so that's helping to do more things that we just couldn't do as just our simple volunteers. So they're going to start making videos and have some more resources on graphics, and so it's kind of exciting where our little volunteer project is taking off. We also had a collaboration with the Chicago Public Schools. So I had that with Sustained Dane last Friday, and we got tied into a whole bunch of different resources, and they were pretty much along the same line as work that we had done. And that's a kind of a nonprofit that focuses on that all the time. So we were really tackling something above and beyond with that cafeteria recycling project, I'm excited about us being able to do that again, and excited for the student potentially to get back in the classroom and be able to watch that grow in the Madison school district some more.
Can I just chime in?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to, I read with the Chicago, the write-up for the Chicago school systems, and just wanted to mention how encouraging it was to see that other people are doing the same thing. And Kim and Chris independently came to the same conclusions in the same path, and kudos to them. And now we can take advantage of the system that maybe Chicago people have used and make our lives a little bit easier. But it's just really encouraging to see that other communities are also working on cafeteria recycling. And along those lines, I realize that there's nobody from Leopold staff or the Madison School District online right now, but you have no idea the hurdles that they're trying to go jump over and get through to get people back in the classrooms and accommodate the meals that breakfast, lunch, snack, and still recess, and try to keep everything sanitized. And the janitors can't go into the classrooms. And I mean, it's just the logistics of getting kids back in the classroom is just overwhelming. I think the smallest part would be getting these cartons recycled, because they're still having to put the trash. The teachers will now be taking the trash and putting it out in the hall, because the janitors can't come into the classroom until school's done, and that's when everything will be sanitized again. But it's just an incredible undertaking that I didn't fully appreciate, and probably still don't, until we've had those Zoom calls with some of the staff people at Leopold. It'll be, I know other schools are doing it and it can be done. I just think that we need to give them a lot of appreciation for getting this done safely. That was a little off topic.
Any additions? Thanks, Diane. Any additions, Kim?
No, I think you guys summed it up, and I'm just very encouraged that Leopold is still very committed to figuring out how to make this happen. So yeah, that's very encouraging. And even though the students aren't back yet, it's giving us a little more time to get things figured out. But as Diane said, the whole COVID on top of all of this makes it even more challenging. So, but we have a good group working on it, so it's very exciting.
So I'll just add one more thing. So this whole school recycling thing has sparked a relationship that we formed with the Carton Council. We've shared that relationship with Sustained Dane, and then with I've had some role in helping them to connect to more funds from the Carton Council for a $30,000 municipal grant. And that is essentially going to be approved within the next week, I understand. So we had a call about it. So this is exciting for Fitchburg, getting back to the fact that I had laid out earlier today. So the Carton Council is participating, one, to get more cartons getting recycled, but also to help our overall goal in the Dane County area of reducing that 18 to 19% that is going into our recycling containers that ends up at a landfill, and trying to reduce that. So pulling back to the 18, 19%, this $30,000 will be focused on working very closely with the university, and we're going to try to get recycling better out as much as we possibly can. So it could be seeing videos with Bucky Badger, talking about recycling better, potentially ads at Wisconsin football games, Wisconsin basketball games, So this is really starting to blow up, and we're trying to. The goal is to expand this not only throughout the Dane County area, but the overarching goal is to spread this message throughout the Big Ten Conference at all the campus towns across the Big Ten. So
That's terrific.
so
That's really
Kim
great,
going,
Chris.
Kim going to lunch with Asher when he was in kindergarten,
Yeah.
parking like this crazy wild recycling ride that we've been on, and kind of how it'll affect us here at the local level is the first program that we'll be putting together is a master recycler program. So it'll really be a way for us to reach out to different residents and get them to recycle better. So much like the master composter program that UW Extension put out, Sustain Dane would be working closely with the City of Madison Recycling Coordinator, Brian Johnson, and he would be helping to put together this program, and everybody understands the differences between some of the cities and what we can do in Fitchburg that they can't do in Madison. So we're going to be very careful about that. But there'll be an opportunity for all of us to go out and lead it, potentially in our neighborhood groups with a Zoom meeting. We could do, invites, on Facebook or through email, and then you could lead a recycler program. And the goal is to grow that out so more and more people know how to recycle better. And so that's what we're working towards. So way to go, Kim. You've been a spark for not only Fitchburg and one school, but the entire Madison School District, the greater Dane County region, and now all the cities where there are Big Ten Conference schools is part of the goal. So just speaks to somebody having a passion about something and kind of watching how it grows. So thank you, Kim.
Well, thank you for all of your efforts and help, and other people on the committee who have stepped up and helped along the way, and we're eager to let us take this on. So I mean, it's amazing. So thank you everyone for all of your help and support and efforts along the way.
Good job, guys. Very good job. It's very exciting how this has grown.
Yeah, definitely keep it going. You got some good energy going and a lot more to go. So that's
Nate, pretty soon your little girl will be going to Leopold, and she can see the difference, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She can be the new recycler.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Yeah, super. No, that's good work, guys. And again, another positive thing that this commission has. It's sad to see it go, but it's good knowing that you guys are doing good work. So, all right, there's still 15 minutes ahead, which is excellent. I feel like we've still had good conversations and have given enough time, so this is good. This is great, and I think we can now move on to council updates. Gabriella, you have normal 10 minutes, but you can use more time if you want.
Yeah, actually, I don't have much to report today. We, the resolutions that we approved today will be at council tomorrow, and I'll report back at our next meeting about the results of that. Unless any of you want to know sooner, you can reach out to me and I can let you know how that goes. And outside of council and the other commissions that I'm on that you might be interested in, we're going to be having a lot of conversation about public transportation from the Transportation and Transit Committee this year, because Madison Metro, who services the Fitchburg area, is looking at significant increases in the budget in coming years because of needs to do reinvestment in the infrastructure. And that could have a significant impact on our budget for the same level of service. It's looking like that impact might be down a little bit further down the road because of federal government money, because of the pandemic. So we might not see an increase until 2023. But we're going to have a lot of conversation about what that looks like. And if that means reduced service, if that means considering an outside vendor. I have a lot of opinions on that I can share with you individually if you'd like. But so anyway, we're meeting again on Thursday. We had a long conversation at the last meeting in January So if you're interested in that topic and want to follow it, I'd encourage you to take a look at the Transportation and Transit Committee meetings or reach out to me and we can talk about it one-on-one. But I'll be focusing on that quite a lot this year. And then the last thing is just the Tree Advisory Committee is working on the tree protection ordinance throughout the year, and we're hoping to have something to council later this year, and certainly before the end of 2021. And happy to answer any questions.
Gabrielle, on the transit, you said Madison Metro has some infrastructure they need to upgrade. What would that involve?
It's my understanding is it's mostly the bus storage facility, like where the buses sit and live.
Oh,
They're not serviced. Okay. And the building has not been maintained properly for many, many years, maybe decades. They have a new general manager at Metro that was hired last year. And I think he's doing kind of like a relook at the system. When I say infrastructure, I do not mean bus rapid transit, which I think is popping into a lot of people's minds because that's something that they're looking at. Okay. Because the bus rapid transit is only within the city of Madison, all of those costs are being handled by the city of Madison, not passed along to any of the partner cities or municipalities. So, yeah, there's some additional context there, but there might be some other things as well, but that's the major cost.
Good. And on the tree preservation document, that has been a long time coming. I mean, my guess is 10 years ago that was discussed, so it'd be really nice to have that finally in a document form. Yeah, I mean, it'll certainly go to RCC. I'm going to refer to RCC in addition to all the other commissions that are going to take a look at it. Good. But I'm sure it'll go to a lot. But yeah, hopefully you guys will be seeing it later in the year. Great.
Excellent. Thanks for the update. And sorry we got all the resolutions coming your way for tomorrow. So, all right. Now we have staff update that starts on page 94 of the packet. Which, Claudia, you want to start it off?
Yep. So for solid waste, the recycling guide has been updated and is available. The link to it is there. Also, at the last meeting, we talked about a link to this recycling guide being made available in utility bills. And now it's also going to appear in the email that gets sent to new utility customers. So that's a pretty big win. I know that was something we were talking about here, is how to get this information to residents, and then also how to get it to new residents specifically. So I think that addresses some of those concerns.
Good.
In the stormwater realm of things, the MS4 Public Education and Outreach Plan has been posted. So that's what we talked about last time. I think the only change that I made was the CDRR project. The way I had originally written it, it was going to be a Fitchburg only event, but then after we had discussed, we decided to just be the partner for the MAM swap event. So I updated that, and that's now online. The sub-zero stormwater study is going to be presented to the Committee of the Whole on February 24. So if you're interested in watching that, you can find that online. Lake Barney is going to be presented on March 24. So more information at that website there. Curry Court, we had a public information meeting on January 6th. That was primarily to get input from residents and to also introduce them to the project. So a recording can be found at that link in the packet.
How was that received, Claudia?
It was good. We had a lot of attendance and a very engaged audience, a lot of questions at the end too. And we requested that folks participate in a survey so that we could collect some information on what people were seeing, what problems people were seeing, and also what solutions folks wanted, or what solutions folks thought would address the problems. And actually that was very beneficial to us. We Staff, we were considering doing 3 alternatives. Well, that's the scope, is to do 3, but we actually modified them based on what we heard from the residents and what folks wanted to see there. So yeah, that was really great. A lot of input and questions there.
Good.
Proposals on the Burn Pond Vegetation and Management Plan are due February 12th, so this Friday. A copy of the advertisement is there. If you have any interest in looking that up, you can download the RFP. Of course, the MS4 annual report, which we talked about earlier today. We've also been working on an audit of all of the stormwater management permits that have been issued, just to make sure that our database of private stormwater facilities is complete. And it needs to be complete so that we can make sure that we are tracking the long-term management of those appropriately. So that's one of the more time-consuming tasks that we're working on this winter. And then, of course, the erosion control training, that's going to be held online on March 10. The target audience is, as I've mentioned, contractors, designers, and inspectors. It's not really for the general public. It might be technical for the general public, and it is specifically about construction sites, but I know folks here were interested in that. And then if anyone's watching and if you're in that industry, feel free to sign up. It is free of charge.
I have a question in regards to that. Has that been advertised with some of the business associations in the area, like the Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce?
So the way, yeah, we actually have a database of the people who have been doing designs and inspections and contractors who work in Fitchburg. We have that information because they submit permits and they have to give their contact information as part of that. So we did send it to all of the people associated with Fitchburg permits last year and up until now. And then I've also sent it to MAMSWAP, just the other MAMSWAP communities, and Green Tier Clear Waters. Yeah, just trying to get the word out to folks. If they have an email list similar to ours that's specific to the industry, then they're welcome to send it out. But it's not really something we're going to post on our general Facebook page, because
yeah. Is the Madison Area Builders Association someone you want to send it to? I know that's a.
Yeah, we could.
Or
I can certainly send it to them. It's not someone who I have sent it to in the past, but I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah,
Well, if you want to contact, I'm happy to, I can provide you contacts. I'm sure you can find it yourself too, but just let me know. I'm happy to connect you if you'd like.
If you have a contact for a specific person, that might be good, who you think I should. Otherwise, I'll just send it to a generic person that I find on the web.
I have a contact I can send you.
Okay. All right, and that's all from me. If does anyone have questions for solid waste or stormwater?
I have one, and maybe it's not pertinent, but I know we talked about and maybe it's because I live on one of the Lyman or Florian Drive stormwater project. I know that you had sent out like a request for information from everybody, and I don't know if that's, and then I think the budget got changed to make that project move ahead maybe a year or two. I don't know if there's been any update on that, or if that's going to be coming up this year at some point.
And I honestly forget what year that CIP project is scheduled for. So basically the year any type of project gets added to the CIP, even if it's several years out, we'll send a direct mailing to anyone who's affected. So I think that was the case with the Lyman Lane project, but I can double check what year that's supposed to happen and get that to you.
Sure, that's all right.
Claudia, what about, just wanted to follow up, and obviously your year has started off just as busy as last year ended, but I think you were going to put together something for the folks on Cheryl Drive.
Yeah, so
have you had
that's in the works. You're right, I didn't put it in the staff update, but I have been working with EOR, and we're figuring out a scope right now. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have a resolution going through to accept a contract for that.
Oh, and that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about, I thought you were going to put together some kind of a handout that you could give the homeowners for things that they could do to mitigate the problem.
Oh, you mean for protecting your basement from groundwater? Is that?
Well, basement and areas of their yard, rain gardens and rain barrels and landscaping.
And I do have that on my list. I think that might become an intern task this summer when we have an intern on board. I'm not sure that that's something I'm going to be able to work on beforehand.
Okay.
Thanks, Claudia.
Right. For the sustainability update, I'll go in reverse order from the way I put it in the packet. In December, Governor Evers' Climate Change Task Force, that's headed up by Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, released its final report. It's not a Fitchburg specific update, but I think especially in the wake of having had Kathy Coons and Joe Parisi come to talk to us about the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change's report last year, I think this would be something else that's worthwhile for everybody to at least skim through and kind of look at some of the things that the Climate Change Task Force came up with, some of their what they identified for the state of Wisconsin, and some of their recommendations for mitigation and adaptation with respect to projected climate change impacts in this state. This afternoon was the latest Green Tier Legacy Communities all-member meeting. Again, held virtually because still can't get together in person. Talk through some member success stories. That's one where I put out a call that I'm going to try to connect with a couple of communities that have recently put together sustainability plans or are also currently working on them. It sounds like McFarland is beginning to work on their sustainability plan. And Middleton is looking at an update to theirs because their existing plan is 10 years old. They haven't renewed it since then. So I'll try to connect with the sustainability reps for both of those cities and get some, kind of share some ideas on how to go about pursuing that. There were also a couple of presentations from the University of Wisconsin Sea Grant program about a flood resilience scorecard, and Legacy Solar talked about some solar tax financing. Unfortunately, I was getting pulled away a little bit during those presentations, so I only caught bits and pieces, but I'm hoping either the meeting was recorded or I can get some notes to follow up on that and try to get a little bit more information. And then the other thing, I kind of gave a little bit of a teaser this at the January meeting. I'm still waiting for the final numbers from the final report from Greg Weiss with Innovative Business Engineering for the annual energy reporting that he does for the city of Fitchburg. But I've at least on my end calculated the numbers with to the best of my current ability. What I've got for the city of Fitchburg for 2020 is that we were 21.2% of the electricity that we used last year came from renewable sources. It's just a kind of a shot in the dark about how much energy I think we'll use this year relative to last year. But my best guess right now, being a little bit on the conservative side, is that by the end of this year, we should be at 39% renewable electricity with the addition of the electricity coming in from the O'Brien solar farm. That's projecting about a 6% overall increase in electricity usage by the municipality. So that might be a little on the aggressive side. There's just so many unknowns about how things are going to continue forward as we keep recovering from the pandemic. But I think the sort of 90% confidence interval would have us somewhere between 36 and 43%. And I think right around that 3940 is where I expect we're going to come out by the end of this year. So we're in a, as I've kept saying time and again, we're in a great place. We should hit our 25% commitment 4 years early, and then we're, start pushing forward to that 100% by 2030.
That's great.
Do we need to readjust that target?
Which one and which direction, I guess?
I mean, the 2025 target. I mean, if we're achieving it so early, should we maybe at 50%? Where would we want to be at what year at 50%?
I would say, first of all, we should just appreciate it and celebrate it.
Well, I know that, yeah.
Absolutely that.
It's great to hear, but yeah.
I would say,
I just don't want us to lax off. Oh, we made our 25%. Now we have to wait until 2030,
well,
so another target for us to go at.
As far as I'm aware, we still have the most aggressive 100% commitment in the state. I don't know of any other municipality or county that's targeting 100% renewable electricity as early as 2030. I think I've seen 50% by 2030. There are a lot of 100% by 2050. So it's definitely something that we can talk about, whether we want to put some more incremental goals in there. But I think giving ourselves at this point 9 years to go from 25% to 100%, we definitely don't have room to sit back on our heels. It's definitely still a really aggressive target, and we'll need to keep pushing towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So
For sure.
doesn't 25 by 25 also include vehicle fuel?
25 by 25. So that's something I need to check on. I believe the original 25 by 25 commitment was 25%. I'm trying to remember if it was 25% energy reduction, or if it had to do with vehicle fuel as well. So we had an additional, as I'm looking this up, I can kind of ad lib here. We had an additional commitment as part of our clean energy resolution that involved getting to 30% reduction overall of fossil fuels on a per capita basis by 2030. So that 30% reduction by 2030 would cover vehicle fuels as well. At least in our 2019 clean energy resolution.
No, I was thinking about our 25 by 25 commitment. I think that also includes fuel use.
Right. The 25 by 25 commitment was 25% renewable sourcing for municipal energy needs by 2025. So that's one that it doesn't look like it made a distinction between electricity and other energy sources. It was just 25% renewable from municipal energy.
Yeah.
So that's one that I'll need to look a little bit more into the details of that one, because it's a little bit farther in the past. It's gotten less attention. The clean energy resolution is the kind of the fresh, new, exciting goal, and a bit more aggressive on several fronts. So we've definitely spent more time focusing on that. But I will want to take a look at that 25 by 25 and make sure that that's achievable as well.
I would just be careful mentioning whether or not we were close to achieving that, because it does include non-electrical use.
Yeah, point taken for sure. I appreciate that. I did also, so this kind of partially gets to that question. I looked for the first time, because we do track we track gasoline purchases and diesel purchases for our fleet vehicles. So I've added that information to my commitment tracker spreadsheet. And what I've got right now is using 2018 as our baseline. By the end of 2020, we had reduced our fossil fuel energy use per capita by 7.4% versus the baseline. With the increase in renewable electricity from that O'Brien project this summer, I expect that by the end of this year, we'll be at about 15-16% reduction of the overall fossil fuel on a per capita basis. Now, a question there that was kind of left unanswered by the clean energy resolution is what metric to use, because it just said that we'll have a fossil fuel energy reduction. but we measure that in gallons of gasoline, gallons of diesel, kilowatt hours, natural gas, therm purchases from the utility. You can convert those all into MMBTU, into British thermal units, or million British thermal units, which is a measurement of energy usage. But that they, depending on where we're deriving that energy, they have different greenhouse gas factors. So it'll definitely be a question to figure out whether I'm just looking for 25%, whether I'm looking for in the 30% reduction by 2030 commitment that's from our clean energy resolution. Do I want to frame that as a reduction of overall energy use that's derived from fossil fuels, or do I want a 30% reduction of the CO2 equivalent emissions that are the result of that energy usage? And of course, both is the correct answer, but I also need to figure out what the best interpretation of that clean energy resolution tells me. So that's something I'm still working on. For sure, I want to look at that 25 by 25 commitment and make sure that I'm not sweeping anything under the rug. Definitely important to make sure that we're on track with that as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I do think in terms of a communicating perspective, I like separating it out by electricity use and gasoline use, because I just feel like that's more tangible for people. You can understand a reduction in electricity use and a reduction in gas use, but if you try to lump it all together, I feel like it becomes much more theoretical, and I don't know. I really like both of these charts. I think they're really helpful for understanding what's happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and what I would really like to work on this year, because pushing forward in a sustainability plan doesn't feel like enough to me. So I'm this Wednesday I'm going to be meeting with a group of 3 students from UW, part of the Energy Analysis and Policy Graduate Certificate program that I went through, and as part of a capstone to their spring semester, the second year of their certificate. For the capstone course, they pursue a professional project. So for me, it was working with a local energy efficiency company on a secondary research project for them. This group is going to be working with me on looking at the possibility of bringing our annual energy reporting in-house. One thing that I would like to do with that is putting together some type of a more visual and user-friendly display of exactly what we're talking about here, looking at our electricity usage, where it's all coming from, what proportion is renewable, how much have we reduced our gasoline usage, our electricity usage, all these things over time, just to try to make this at a bare minimum a little bit more accessible, easier to share with council, with the RCC, with internal staff. If we can get it to a point that it feels like an effective communication tool and something that I'm able to keep up with on a regular basis, then this, be great to have this at least released as sort of a public-facing Fitchburg energy report, Fitchburg sustainability report every year, if not more frequently. That might be an aggressive goal, but at least having an annual energy report that can be put out, instead of relying on me to put tables together and give these kind of verbal overviews that I think are a little bit harder to digest for people. So I'm hopeful that by the start of next year, I'll be able to have a report like that put together, and then you'll have something much more visual and separated out by categories, Gabrielle, exactly the way you're talking about. Yeah, just keep pushing us forward.
Phil, I think this information is just out.
Phil, do you have
And I was just wondering, is there a way that we can get this information in a format that we could put on like Facebook sites to let people know what the city is doing?
Yeah, so that's
the educational tool, just to let them know, how proactive we are in reducing our energy consumption.
That's exactly the kind of thing I'd be talking about. I think that it is a disservice to the community that that we haven't been pushing this information out there more aggressively and really celebrating these accomplishments
Yeah,
when
we
we
should.
when we hit the milestones. Yeah.
Two things. Phil,
Mhm.
do you have a date to present to the city council yet?
To present these numbers.
Well, yeah, last year you thought you were on the calendar, I think for
Mm.
September, October, and somehow
Right.
that got bumped.
Yes, so that was going to be for the Office of Energy Innovation grant that we partnered with Slipstream and 6 other local municipalities. I gave that report in September, I think, to the RCC. On February 24th, I believe, let me double check the date here. February 24th, I'll be presenting to Committee of the Whole
Okay.
regarding that OEI grant, the final report. Now that final report is going to be a year old by that point, so I'll have made some updates to the sections of the presentation where I talked about our energy usage and reduction and where we're looking to make further short-term steps. But yeah, that'll be 2 weeks from this Wednesday.
My other actually suggestion, and good, I'm glad you got on the calendar. I think that should be an annual presentation. I don't know if you have any input into that or any pull into that, Gabriella, but I think that would be nice to present that at least annually to the council.
The
My
committee
other
of the
suggestion.
whole the committee of the whole is schedule is controlled by the council president, just
Yeah.
FYI.
I know, but I thought you could put in 2 cents.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
My other suggestion is, I appreciate this table, but I think if you're going to disseminate it to the public, I think a bar graph might be easier for people to understand, where you show the percentages, the current year and the projected year percentages, something like that.
And that's why I haven't done more yet to push this information really much further than RCC and the council, is that it definitely requires some data visualization. Tables are not they're not user friendly.
Yeah.
I'm fine working with them, but I'm an odd duck. I definitely agree. Bar graphs, I mean, yeah, and anything more visual would be a big improvement over what's here. So that's hopefully going to be part of the spring project with this group of students as well. I don't have my hopes up particularly high. The real goal of this internship is to get a professional experience for the students more than it is to get some kind of a functional product for the client. But I'm hoping that at least in working with them, it's kind of going to spark some thoughts on my end that I'll be able to maybe develop some things a little bit more quickly as well.
Okay, good.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Phil. I like tables, so this it's clear to me.
We'll form a club.
Yeah, nice work, Phil.
I don't know about anybody else, but those new solar panels on that one quadrant of that intersection, I was amazed when I saw
They're pretty
them.
cool.
Yeah.
And that's just the small corner, I think once the other corner gets put in, which maybe I haven't driven over there in the past couple of weeks, so.
If you get a chance to drive past the airport on the east side of the airport, that solar array is really impressive.
Yeah.
I have seen that.
Nice. Very good. I think that's it for.
I actually have a couple of follow-up items I wanted to just tell you. At the last meeting, we talked about a possibility. I was asked to check into the possibility of having a SaltWise presentation to the chamber. And I thought before I did that, before I checked with the chamber, I'd make sure that I had a speaker, because I can't speak on SaltWise very well. And I checked with Claudia, and she wasn't comfortable speaking on it and didn't have the time to speak on it, even if she did feel comfortable. And so she put me in contact with somebody at MMSD, and that person was pretty tied up and said she'd get back to me, and I haven't heard from her. But I'm thinking that maybe this is something, given that we're into February now, and hopefully we're not going to certainly have too many more snowstorms. Maybe that's something that we should consider for a September presentation to the chamber, or October. Maybe October or November would be more appropriate time-wise, depending on when the salt-wise certification classes are held. So anyway, that's where that stood. But I did follow up on, I did check on that. It just didn't end up going too far. And then I wanted to check, Phil, to see if you had time looking at the minutes that we approved from 2 meetings ago, the November meeting. You were going to check into whether we could have historic water usage on residential water bills.
Yep. Yeah, that is one. Provided an update on that in either November or January. So I reached out to I think finance on that, and they said this is actually something that they're looking into making happen. I'm hesitating here because I want to make sure that I don't commit them to something they didn't specifically tell me. So I'm going to try to pull up some of those old minutes and see if I can find this really quickly.
I think it came up in the November meeting. That was an action item from November. We can wait, and if you just want to shoot out an email on that or cover that
Sure.
next meeting. And the other thing I was wondering about, Phil, is did you find out about the fire station sprinklers? Are those on a timer and that's why they were watering when we didn't need water, or?
That one on the fire station sprinklers, I didn't get an answer back specifically on that one.
I'd like to see that not happen this year.
I can certainly look into that. Yeah, if they're on timers, that would be probably a bit more challenging. I suspect they're probably not done manually. But yeah, I'd have to look into it, see who's, I guess, responsible for managing that.
Well, my guess is, since the sod is now established, they won't be watering it as frequently, but one of our focus items is to reduce water consumption, and we can't do that if the city's not going to lead the way. That's all I had, Nate. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Any other blue sky thoughts?
I think I have one very, very quick one. I know we're coming up on the 9 o'clock, but I am having a conversation tomorrow with Steve Wayland. He's with the Groundswell Conservancy, and they're working on a community garden project in Fitchburg. I'm going to talk to him and see what he has going on, but there's a possibility that he could be presenting at an upcoming meeting and answering questions and looking for help to kind of get some information out about this. So more to come on that.
Do you know where the community garden it will be?
I think it's over in the vicinity of Swan Creek. I'm not sure exactly, so that'll be found out tomorrow.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, no, I thought I saw something about a Swan Creek garden at some point. Maybe it's something different, but cool. Yeah, let us know.
I can get you that information. I'm on the board. I know we've had some issues. I know our Swan Creek, there's not enough there. Everybody wants more space for the community gardens, but there's also an issue with the, when you walk by the big townhouses, and there's a big area that used to be community gardens that's owned by them, the townhouses, and they refuse to allow the rest of the residents of Swan Creek to use that, so it's all overgrown. Just FYI, if that's your question.
Not really my question. I'm just listening to what he has going on. This is a whole different community garden. I think it may provide access to all the numerous apartments around Swan Creek. I'm not sure exactly where it's located, so more information to come at a future meeting.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate you spending the full time here on this Monday evening. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for the second Monday in March, which is March 8th at 6:30. And again, it'll be our normal Zoom platform again. Hopefully this will come to an end sometime this year, but I feel like it's been working out pretty good.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's great to see everybody. Hope everyone has a good rest of February, and warm weather is hopefully coming around the corner.
Not till March, I heard. We'll still be ice skating.
Yeah. Well, can only hope, right?
Yeah.
Take care, everybody. I adjourn the meeting.
Everyone.
Thanks, have a
Right,
good
thank
day.
you.
Good night.
Have a good night.